Hello and welcome to Think Watercolour. Today's video is all about a way to overcome the anxiety that we sometimes get when we're confronted with a large sheet of white watercolour paper. It's a very simple idea, but it's a very effective method of getting started, especially if you're a novice or an inexperienced watercolourist. The idea is that if you start on a small sheet, you'll be less intimidated than you would by a large sheet of paper. And if you keep your painting simple, you will hopefully derive a lot of pleasure from producing a quick and hopefully pleasing image. This is a real-time demonstration to show how I went from this to this in less than 15 minutes. So it's worthwhile sparing a quarter of an hour of your time to see if it will help you to develop as an artist. This is a small piece of Saunders Waterford 300-gram rough paper. It's approximately 7.5 inches by 5.5 inches, which is roughly 1/16 of a full sheet. At this point, I've only got a vague idea of what I'm going to paint. I haven't drawn on the paper at all, so I'm literally making it up as I go along. And I'm going to establish a horizon line somewhere not near to a third of the way up the paper, but maybe not spot on, with an initial wash using Naples yellow with a touch of yellow ochre. And the brush I'm using for this, by the way, is an Escoda Perla size 12. I'm just adding a few touches of the yellow ochre, just trying to indicate perhaps a rough grassland area at the front. This is a little more of the yellow ochre, but straight out the palette, almost neat yellow ochre. This is really painting by the seat of your pants, but it's it's good fun. Just mixing up a touch of sap green to drop in, and to suggest some grass, and just knocking it back to a more of an olive colour with the Naples yellow. It's sap green can be quite strong, and I just wanted to create something a bit softer. Always remember, this is just a small piece of watercolour paper and some coloured water. At the end of the day, if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. And really, there are no mistakes, they're just lessons. What I'm trying to do is create just different patches of light and shade in the foreground here. I'm just using, while the paint's still wet, just using the back of the brush to just scrape up some rough area. And I have in mind now, having looked at it, to maybe paint a tree as a focal point. And I've got in mind a winter tree covered in ivy, but let's see how we go. I'm just mixing up some ultramarine blue with some burnt sienna to create a grey for the clouds in the sky. Just want to establish those. It's going to help to kill the whiteness of the paper a little bit. Just trying to get the grey right. I think I've got it more or less right. I think it might be a little bit on the blue side, but let's have a look. I'm just wetting the paper first with some clear water, just to create some areas of white paper for the clouds. And I'm just going to paint the shadows of the clouds around that and let them just blend gently in to create the idea of soft clouds, slightly overcast day maybe. I'm just making it up as I go along, and just trying to create a nice, slightly overcast sky, as I say, and just leaving the horizon light because I want some contrast between the horizon and the foreground. Just add a little bit more burnt sienna just to warm that that grey up a little bit. I think it's a little bit strong on the blue side, but we'll see how it dries. And just at the top, I think I'm just going to hint at some blue sky. But, it's blending it into the area that I put some clean water on. And while this foreground's still wet, I'm just adding some jadeite green, just to bring the area nearest to us forward, and a touch more of the sap green as well. Just letting it all blend together, wet in wet, all the while the wash is wet. I can add more and more. But the minute it starts to dry, I'll have to stop doing this. Just wiping off some excess there and just finishing it off. I just picked up some Van Dyke Brown just to drop in roughly where I want the ground to be a bit darker, where I'm going to put a tree on this side. But I'll come to that in a sec. This, again, using the back of the brush just to create some suggestion of some growth on the top of the horizon line there. And on this left side, I'm just adding a little bit more of that jadeite green to suggest a distant hedge. And I wanted it to be a little bit darker than I might usually paint, just so that it has contrast with the lightness of the horizon and the sky. Again, just dropping in some more green, just create some areas of interest. Just suggest that the ground's not perfectly flat. As I say, I'm making this up as I go along now. I hope it comes out okay. This is a little bit more of that Van Dyke Brown, just create some interest. I'm just trying to position the tree roughly a third of the way in. Just while the sky's still wet, I'm not going to paint the tree. I'm just going to paint the base of the tree and let the roots sort of blend into the landscape. It just helps me position the tree while the sky's drying. This is just some burnt sienna just to indicate where the tree is going to be, and dropping in a little bit more of that Van Dyke Brown and maybe a touch of green in there as well, I think. What is that? Whatever's on the palette, really. Okay, the sky's now dry, and I'm just going to indicate the tree trunk and the major branches. I've just switched to a smaller brush. This is an Skoda Perla size 2 for the tree branches. It's just a gnarly old winter tree, and I'm going to cover the trunk in ivy once I've established the branches. You see these trees all over the English countryside, well, the British countryside, I should say. You'll see a hedgerow with one solitary tree along it, usually covered in ivy as well. It's quite a common sight as you wander around the countryside. I'm very lucky. I live in Cheshire, and I'm literally a 10-minute walk from the countryside, so I have access to lots of wonderful views. And over time, you build up a memory bank of images like this tree. As I say, I'm making it up as I go along, but I've seen hundreds of trees just like it. I'm just going to use a rigger now to paint the thinner branches towards the top of the tree and just add a few details here and there. The trick with doing this is not to go over the top. You only really have to indicate a few branches and the the viewer's eye will do the rest. And just establishing the roots a little bit more with that Van Dyke brown. The great thing about a rigger is that if you're very careful with it, you can use the springiness of the brush itself to create these nice jagged joins in the branches. All very random, but I think it suggests that there's an old tree there. I'm just using the jadeite, sap green, just to start off positioning the ivy, and just dropping in some of the jadeite to add a bit of tonal variety to the green. I've said this many times before, jadeite green and sap green are really good colours that work well together for a fairly natural look of foliage on trees. And if you combine them with something like aureolin, you can get a real range of greens with just those three, and it saves a lot of time mixing greens for me. I used to mix greens, but these days I found these work just as well for me. But you do try mixing your own greens. It's a lot of fun, and it's a challenge to get the greens the way you want them, so do give it a try. Just dropping a little bit more of yellow ochre in around the base of the tree, just to darken it a little bit while it's still, just lifting out a little bit there, just to create a bit of lightness at the top of the ivy. I think I need to add a little bit more green below it, just I've taken out too much of the pigment. So some more fairly neat jadeite green. I think that's pretty much finished, and it took less than 15 minutes to do, so do give it a try. So there you have it. Do give this idea of starting small on a small piece of paper and keeping things simple. I mean, I buy my paper by the sheet and cut it down to size, but you could just as easily do this with a small pad or a small block, and you'll feel less intimidated by having this small sheet there. You know, a big sheet can be intimidating even for a professional artist. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. And had this not turned out, I've only wasted a small piece of paper. So, as I say, do give it a try. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found it useful, and do give it a like if it was useful to you. Always helps with YouTube. And if you're not a subscriber, do subscribe and hit the notification bell for future videos. And thanks once again for watching.